Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sharon Go Show. The Sharon Go Show is a space I have conversations with brilliant minds passionate about nutrition, well-being, and healthy living. Transform your health. You can transform your life. Today, our guest is my beautiful friend, Tabassum Siddiqui. Tabassum is the founder and CEO, ethical and regenerative fashion designer, and she's also a certified integrative health coach behind the ethical fashion and wellness company Untitled. Her coaching practice focuses on women's wellness as well as men's wellness, supporting their healing journey to help them both feel and look their best from the inside out, using her natural gifts as a creative and healer. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Nowadays, almost everybody experiences some sort of burnout at some point in life, especially like during the pandemic, right? So according to a study in America, roughly 1 in 10 employed Americans report experiencing complete burnout. So what do you think the root causes of burnout? How a prolonged stressful environment affects us even on a secular level?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned there's a couple of things about that data that you brought up. There's another one that brought up that said that it's costing employers $190 billion in healthcare costs for burnout, as well as there's a Harvard Business Review that came out that said that we lost 550 million hours because of health-related, burnout health-related issues, and also $550 million a year are being spent because of healthcare costs related to burnout. So this is a huge problem. And one of the leading researchers on burnout for the past almost over 40 years, Dr. Christina Maslow, she's at University of UC Berkeley, who works alongside Susan Jackson, who's been doing a long-term study on burnout. And she said, this is a social phenomenon. This is a social problem. This is not an individual problem, as it likes to be portrayed in this system. And really the root cause, I like to teach with people and to teach with my clients, the root cause of burnout is capitalism. The root cause of burnout is white supremacy. These oppressive systems that really value profit and power over life. So when you look at these systems that are very life decaying, they're depleting. We see it depleting our environment. We see it depleting our energy, the hours that we're expected to work to produce, right? And so this is really, it's more on a systemic level that needs to be addressed. Our environment.
It's also kind of interesting, like the study shows like women employees are experiencing more of burnout than their men.
Yeah, they said that it's an uptick for, I think it's like 30%, but for women, it's between 40, 50 and above. They will experience more burnout and also really dangerous side effects of burnout, which are depression and suicide, which is really alarming. And especially like you mentioned earlier, the pandemic, I mean, they're saying that we're soon to expect tsunami waves of, employees saying, I am burnt out, right? So this is not something that is something we need to overlook, right? This is serious. And also one thing I really want to emphasize, it's not an individual problem. A lot of times you feel like I can't handle this workload. It's my fault, which it makes the person feel even worse when it's actually an environmental systemic problem.
Yeah. So we actually experience like burnout at workplaces. That's what we mainly talked about. But actually lots of people experience burnout in home, right? Especially also another study shows that the women with smaller kids experience more burnout than their, those people who have no kids. I think that's very understandable. Like it's really overwhelming.
It also could be for anyone who is like they're talking about now again with the pandemic. This is our most prominent example, and hopefully it's an example to really wake us up to things that need to be changed and things that we really need a huge transformation on every level. But in regards to the way people feel and how they experience burnout, it could be anyone, especially if you have people that are depending upon you. You have to care for others. Men and women have people that are in their care. And they call it now the double shift, where you're working a full-time job. Maybe some people are working several jobs. And then on top of it, you have people to care for. You're burning the candle on both ends. It's just not possible to continue, like you're saying earlier, prolonged stress. What happens, it starts to break down the body. It can only handle, we're only meant to handle, you know, very specific moments of stress or there's an alarm, something that's alarming, we handle it, then we get back to a restful state. But this is like constant, right? And there's no replenishing of the energy. There's no replenishing of our joy. There's no replenishing of our health.
Yeah, it's also like lots of people, like lots of times we just live on this like autopilot mode, right? We just try to cope with whatever is happening in our life without really interfering, like without really kind of step back and really think about what's going on. Even when we feel like really overwhelmed, lots of times, like lots, you know, when we get exhausted, like between getting overwhelmed, exhausted, and being burnt out, you know, we don't really do much, you know, about it. So there one day we'll experience a complete burnout.
That's troubling because, I mean, the thing, again, the society it is, we are rewarded and kind of put on a pedestal for those who didn't sleep that much, right? And they worked, you know, the weekend, and they didn't take the vacation, and they just constantly saying, oh, I'm busy, I'm working on something. It's like that's more, that's valued more in our society versus the person who, I took the weekend off, I relaxed, right? I took some time to meditate during the day.
Yeah, you are so right about that. It's almost like something. Some people use that. Some people look at that as kind of like a social status. Like the busier they are, the more important they think they are. You know, so they just think it's wonderful to being busy or overwhelmed. Means you are more needed. It means you are more important. Yeah.
But like what you mentioned earlier, the thing is, people don't realize that, oh, I'm just tired, I'll just take some coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
And on a cellular level, as you mentioned, there are things happening that are really things to, for example, mitochondria, right? Those are the powerhouse of our cells, and each mitochondria has the potential of 1 light bulb of energy, and we have 15 trillion cells in our body. Think of them, like just imagine the potential energy we have. But if we are keeping our body under prolonged stress, it breaks it down, right? It's not able to energize ourselves and give us energy. Then on top of it, when you are overwhelmed and you're stressed out and you're burnt out, the tendency is not to have very healthy habits too, right? So you're probably not drinking enough, you're dehydrated. And one of the things that stimulates mitochondria is hydration, right? So the one thing that's really interesting is like we're solar powered, right? We're self-healing, we're self-regulating, we're self-repairing, we're also solar powered. So we have mitochondria, and when we're hydrated, we're 60 to 70% water, right? Light hits us, sunlight, we need sunlight that charges us, right? Light hits us, it divides the water molecule cell. So we go through the first stages of photosynthesis, okay? So these molecules, they like hydrophilic surfaces. Hydrophilic surfaces are water-liking surfaces. That's the edges of the mitochondria. So they hang out there. When the light hits again, then boom, you have this explosion of energy. If you're not getting sunlight, you're not getting rest, you're not getting hydration, right? Another way to activate your mitochondria, movement. Moving and working our bigger, larger muscle groups, like, you know, you think of, for example, one easy way of doing squats, doing stairs, right? Your heart has one of the higher concentrations of mitochondria. Any type of movement that stimulates the cardiac activity is going to be helpful.
Yeah.
Right? It's just one of the many things that start to break down when we keep ourselves in this state of stress and exhaustion.
Yeah, like people, when we stress out, we just hold our breath. We don't even, you know, remember to take a deep breath. And lots of times we don't realize our whole body is so tense because we just be stressed out and we forget how to breathe in a normal way. So that's another cause, you know. Big thing. So I really loved that you talked about that, like there are 13 cables that can charge us on a daily basis. And can you go in more in details and tell us about that?
Sure. So I work with my clients. I like to give images and examples to help them really understand the importance of this and also make it easy. So think of yourself of charging yourself, right? And you think of like your phone, right? And we actually take better care of our phones and our devices and all of our machines way better than us. You know that you can't just put any cable in that phone to charge it up, right? So we have specific cables, and it's important to understand that we are multidimensional beings. We're bioelectric. There are different levels of healing and different levels of nourishment that are required. You can't just give us our body anything. It's not going to work that way. And there's these cables, like I mentioned before, that we charge ourselves to give ourselves that upliftment, that nourishment, that joy, that wellness. So what are those things? There's about 12. There could be more, but I like to reduce it to these. So you have sunlight, you have sleep, you have water, you have plants. And again, plants, I was saying earlier, they go through the full stage of photosynthesis. They're full of water hydration. You eat plants, you are like basically giving yourself this like the shortcut to getting more energy to your body, right? Mm-hmm. You have fasting, so it could be intermittent fasting. Anything over 12 hours will give you, it's going to revive the body, revitalize the body. For example, right now I'm doing a dry fast, which is a type of fast. That's also a way you can activate the energy in the body. You have meditation and prayer and gratitude. These things are what's going to bring the sacredness back to our life. We're in a society where it's very individualistic. It's very much about, work, 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 work. There's no sense of connectedness. There's no sense of connection. Things like bringing prayer and gratitude and meditation back in our life grounds us, center us, uplifts our mood, gives us a sense of abundance and joy. Then also after that, you have pleasure. I like to recommend to people, and I've been through burnout. This is why I'm so passionate about this topic, is because I've been through it. And for me, I was on the extreme end of burnout. It can take up to 2 years to 3 years to recover, right? So one of the things I did for pleasure is doing 3 things that bring me joy every day. Didn't have to make sense to anyone else. It brings me joy every day, 3 things. I would pencil in like an appointment. So pleasure, you have nature. Nature is full of negative ions. That being in nature, and if it's a safe place where you can ground and touch the ground or I even hold trees, you're going to take on those negative ions. You're going to release all of that sensory overload and burden, all of the synthetic radiation that we have in our environment, and you're going to take on the natural magnetism from the earth that naturally calibrates our intuition, naturally healing. So you get nature, you get sunlight, you also have fasting, journaling. This is going to bring clarity. It's a very positive use for imagination. We are currently using our imagination to worry and to stress out. Let's shift it and use it towards something positive and bring clarity, and also stimulate our creativity, and also help us to reach higher levels of consciousness when we are redirecting our focus towards a very meaningful pursuit, right? Mm-hmm. And art. You can also include art in the journaling. And I think that's all. And movement. Movement's extremely important. Mm-hmm. So all these things together. And this is, I did a live with one of my friends, Dr. Wissam Majid, and she was talking about this mnemonic, getting your daily dose, right, of happy hormones. So dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, daily dose. So all of the things I mentioned help you get that daily dose. So you have this sense of happiness and joy and sweetness in your life, really, because at the end of the day, it's like, it really doesn't take much to have a sense of contentment with our life if we bring it back down to the natural way and rhythm of living.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting sharing all these tips. I do believe all these elements is so important in our daily life. Of course, it's not like we have to practice all of them in one day, but it's more of like a habit, the kind of things that we should pay attention to on a daily basis. And I recently read a book talking about, like, in Japan, it's very trendy for the philosophy, like going to the forest or the like how we connect with the nature, like you talk about the plants, you talk about the trees, and when we relate to them and we smell, we touch them, we hear the birds, singing and all those things, how important that it can affect our health. It's like very trendy.
Here's the thing that's really interesting. Like I'll mention this, and people are like, "Oh my God, how?" Like you said, how am I going to get all of those into one? Do that daily. Something really easy. Let's say, for example, you take your lunch. You have a lunch break. You actually take a lunch break. You don't sit in front of your computer and eat your lunch. You go for a walk outside. During the day, you have a mostly plant-based meal. You have your infused water. I love the tip that you have with the water and the chia seeds. I remember. Yeah. And you bring a book, maybe you sit down and do some breathing. You don't have to know a very specific type of breath work, just the idea of slowing down your breath, right? Maybe just as you're eating, have some gratitude for your food, this moment. Maybe you're sitting on the grass, maybe you're able to stand by some trees, and maybe you have maybe a journal, maybe just write down something you're grateful for. In that half an hour, you've knocked off practically all 12.
Yeah.
As an example.
That's wonderful. It's like a sunbath or forest bath and a lunch bath.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, it's wonderful. It's also about your mindset, right? Because you coming from a place and you intend to take care of yourself, like give yourself time for really rest, not just rush and finish the lunch and go back to craziness. So it's very important just to have that kind of mindset and incorporate it with all the tips you just shared with us. So for you, for people who want to have a more balanced life, like daily, what kind of tips then you can share with us?
So definitely taking those cables I was mentioning before. So what I like to do, again, I will, especially people if they're already burnt out, very exhausted, this is not something they have the habit of doing. I create rituals. Rituals are very important. It brings a sacred back into our life. So morning ritual, afternoon, evening. So the morning one is renewal, release is the middle one, and restore is the evening one, right? The idea is definitely carve out the time, an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, just carve it out just for yourself before anyone is up in the morning, and also in the night, you carve this time out for yourself. If you're really pressed for time, I distill it down to 20 minutes. If you can give yourself 20 minutes and think of accounts, you have a mind, body, spirit account, right? Mm-hmm. Every day you have to be making some type of deposit. And there's no deposit that's too small, okay? Because it will accumulate.
I love why you're using the concept, this deposit. I think that's what
I'm trying to think of things that people normally do, like people make deposits into their accounts. I was like, well, we have those within us as well. And I like to add one more: vision. A lot of times when we are, and I've been in that place where, doing the corporate job or working for others, you are so drained that it could be years, and then you stop and wake up, you're like, I've built everyone else's dream but my own, right? So take the time to tap into your vision. So you have these 4 buckets. You have, mind, body, spirit, vision, 4 buckets. Give it 5 minutes each. That's 20 minutes, right? Do that in the morning. That's your renewal. First thing before anything else, you have your phone. If you use your phone as an alarm, I put my phone in airplane mode at night. Okay, so there's no Wi-Fi near my bed. Okay, no Wi-Fi, nothing. I turn my alarm off, but I do not turn my phone on until I have done my renewal ritual. I have charged myself. Then in the afternoon, a release routine is like a self-soothing routine. It's a routine to literally release stress and decompress. Because a lot of times we're accumulating, we're holding on, we're stuffing down our feelings, we're not expressing ourselves, we're taking on a lot of even energy from other people. We need to release that frequently, right? So what are the things you can do throughout the day? Few minute things. Take these little breaks, 5-10 minute breaks throughout the day. You step away from your screens, you take some time to breathe, you look outside, be outside, have water, movement. It could be anything from any type of energy movement such as yoga, qigong, tai chi, to jumping jacks, to squats, to anything to get the lymphatic moving. Then the end of the night, you want to carve out time and just know that we want to be in bed before 11, between 10 and 11 beforehand, because our body has a rhythm and we need to respect it. It starts doing its process of healing. So we want to get there early, and we want to make sure we shut things down an hour before, at least an hour before, right? So no screens. This depletes our melatonin and melanin secretion. That's important for immune function. So an hour beforehand, you shut things down, wind it down. Just like you do for babies, you create these really nice, sweet wind down routines. Create one for yourself, make it fun. And that's the other thing that's really important. Bring in the joy, make it fun, and make it easy. Like, how can I make this effortless? How can I make this something I'm going to look forward to?
Yeah, it's something that is feasible, practical, right? Doable, not something that add pressure on your life because you're already stressed out. That you think about doing things like, oh, it's so stressful, so much work there, you probably won't be able to do it for a long time. So that's really wonderful. Can you share with us, what exactly are your daily rituals, including morning and afternoon and night? Just give us an idea, what's your rituals every day?
Yeah, mine are, so my routines are a little bit more intense. I spent a long time developing, so they're a little bit longer. So the days that right now we have a lot of cicadas outside. I've seen them, they're like giant crickets. So I'm not outside too much, but daily hikes. We have a nature here. I'm in DC, so there's a place called Rock Creek Park. And
Mhm.
so go for daily hikes early in the morning. But my day literally starts with prayer, being of Muslim faith. So I have an early dawn prayer. And then I go into
So you get up very early, like what?
so it changes. So today it was 4 a.m.
Oh, wow, that's
So
early.
yeah, so it changes throughout. Every day it's different. We follow a very natural system, right? So I'm going by a lunar calendar. I'm also going by the sun. I'm going by season. So I'm naturally adapting myself to these natural rhythms. So I start my day with prayer. Then I have my time for my gratitude journaling. So I quickly write down 3 things I'm grateful for, 1 thing for a future blessing, so I'm envisioning good things coming towards me. I start thinking about my vision, right? Yoga, and then a hike, right? So I knock out all those things, also including infused waters, and also I'm also intermittent fasting. So I'm not going to eat, for me, probably until about 11 or 12. So I
Mm.
want to make sure I get movement in while I'm fasting. I, burn more fat. It's more, I remove more toxins from my body. And then I'll go into my work, the rest of my routine. The middle of the day routine is I get up and walk around, definitely step away from screens, take time to breathe. Again, I have other prayers throughout the day. So I have another 2 afternoon prayers. That's a time to completely disconnect and reconnect with spirit. And then the evening time, another 2 more prayers. And also, again, winding it down. I'm really getting much better at after dinner or so, I'm not doing any work for anybody.
So normally, what time do you do the dinner? Because you mentioned about the fasting.
Yeah, so I try to make sure, sometimes, sometimes it doesn't happen, but try to make sure I'm eating by 6 or 7.
Mhm.
Sometimes it goes 8, it just really depends. But I want to make sure it's early as possible. So there's time for the body to, start digesting. I'm not going with a full belly, and making a routine where I'm winding it down, read a book, do some meditation, get my favorite tea that I want to drink that's, non-caffeinated. Just kind of like hang out with the family, talk, you know, just really kind of wind it down like that. So that's basically what my routine looks like.
Oh, it's lots and lots of things there. I mean, just it's already made me feel like wow, I'm so relaxed and like feel. I know. I'm like, oh, I'm really like if I do that, I feel like I'm really taking care of myself. There's so much information there, and it's also very spiritual. It sounds spiritual to me because you go by the lunar calendar and you really pay attention to what's seasonal and change it around. Like even doing fasting, you don't just do it one way, right? It's important to change it around, like the eating windows, like not always do it a very rigid way. It's important to do that. So it's like being very mindful. It's so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing on this.
Thank you so
I
much.
think we all need your help. Like this information is so valuable. So if people want to follow you on social media, where they can find you?
Oh, I have on at Ultravivre, so ULTRAVIVRE. So that's Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, and so you can follow me there. I do, a lot of free workshops. I also do group coaching and one-on-one coaching. So, and I have some other things coming out pretty soon. We're doing an online course about this very topic. So that's coming out this summer.